This is WCN, the Whole Care Network. You talk, we listen. Content presented on the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent views of the Whole Care Network. Always consult your physician for medical and fitness advice, and always consult your attorney for legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Have you ever met anybody that has caregiving on their bucket list of things to do in life?
Beyond caregiving, how do we care?
We also have to care for ourselves.
How do we treat friends, family, strangers we meet?
Forget it.
How do we heal? The physical, social, financial, spiritual.
Hello.
By creating healing ties. Tying it all together like a bow tie. With your host, Christopher McClellan, the bow tie guy.
Well, greetings, everyone. It is Christopher McClellan. You know me as the bow tie guy. And welcome to another episode of Healing Ties 2.0 featured on the Whole Care Network. On the Whole Care Network, we are all about story sharing and resources because we believe it's through story sharing where diversity meets the road to collaborate on a common cause. And our common cause is supporting caregivers before, during, and after caregiving ends. And as you know, we're celebrating National Family Caregivers Month with the reboot of the popular Healing Ties podcast. Well, I think it's popular, but I know my guest today does too, with our 30 podcast in 30 days and our soft launch of our new Whole Care Network website. So when you get a chance, please visit thewholecarenetwork.com. Well, you got to go to the old site to get to the new site, but when you come on to the old site, you'll see the link to the new site, and then you'll get the opportunity to meet a fellow by the name of Bo, because Bo ties things together on the Whole Care Network. When you see Bo, you're going to get it 100%. And during our soft launch, we are asking our listeners to provide us with feedback on the new site so we can continue to build the site so you can easily find your favorite podcasts, favorite blogs, and videos. Oh, and by the way, you'll be able to search content on the Whole Care Network new site via our 4 pillars of care. That's our physical, social, financial, and spiritual health. And be on the lookout for our new YouTube channel featuring live shows, our 24/7 radio station, and a few other exciting changes coming to the Whole Care Network in 2021. Well, enough from me. My guest on this episode of Healing Ties is a very special and dear friend, Toula Wootan from Toula's Tips for Caregivers. Toula has been an advocate for caregivers for, well, I'm not going to tell you how long because she has been an advocate for everybody since the day she was born. That's how wonderful Toula Wootan is. Toula, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I am doing pretty well. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show today and talk about something we're both very passionate about.
We're approaching Thanksgiving, and goodness, we've got coronavirus, we've got Thanksgiving, we've got traveling. Oh my goodness gracious, St. Ignatius, what is a caregiver to do?
Well, caregiving can be and usually is tough enough during normal circumstances, whatever normal is. I think we're all starting to forget
What is
what is
the
normal.
new normal?
The new normal. But caregiving always imposes its own set of challenges, physically exhausting, emotionally tiring as you watch your loved one decline, spiritually depleting sometimes. And then sometimes it even takes a lot of your finances away from you, as it can be very expensive to care for a loved one. So during the best of times, caregiving is hard. And one of the things that caregivers have always, unfortunately, had a tendency to do is isolate.
Right.
Quit reaching out for help, quit going out to dinner or to lunch with their friends and other family members. We all know what isolation leads to, right, Chris?
Isolation leads to fear, leads to weight gain, leads
Yeah.
to
Depression.
depression.
Yeah. So here we are at a time in 2020 when caregivers are being told to socially distance, essentially isolate, essentially stay home and take care of your loved one. No, you can't go do all the things that you love doing anymore because you may put yourself at risk. You may put your loved one that you're caring for at risk. So, what's a caregiver to do? And I will tell you, it has been an incredible strain on caregivers. And sadly, the number of suicides among caregivers is going up due to the isolation and the added stress. So, I'd like to talk about some ways that caregivers can defeat some of that stress, conquer some of that stress, and stay emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically healthy. So let's talk about a couple of
Yeah,
ways.
because what a better way to start than have some of Toula's tips.
Well, again, it's a hard situation in the best of circumstances, and now they're being told to stay home. Many caregivers aren't aware that you can still connect with others, even from your home. And I believe we all have that innate desire to connect with others. Connectivity is so important to our overall health. You can't be a healthy individual as a lone ranger. You just can't.
Exactly.
We all need each other. And there are ways to connect with others. And in these trying times, caregivers in their 70s and 80s and even older have learned to use some of the technology that's out there to connect, like we're doing today.
Right.
But there's easier technology. You can start with a phone call to talk to your loved ones and your friends. It's so important to maintain those relationships while you're caring for someone, and even more important during this time. Most of us have phones these days, mobile phones, and many of them have FaceTime. All the iPhones have FaceTime. What a wonderful way to connect with family that you can't see because you can't get together. You can't be closer than 6 feet. You can't get together and have a meal with them. So connect with them on FaceTime where you can see them. At least give them a virtual hug. At least hear how they're doing and what's going on in their lives and be able to share the same with them. So I really believe that the use of technology is becoming more and more prevalent. We're seeing it among
We are.
our senior population.
Right. I think statistics will prove it that one of the fastest growing segments in our society using technology is seniors, and all these great tools that are available to connect people to resources and to connect people to each other through this virtual technology, like we're doing today and doing, recording a podcast. These are readily available for everybody to listen to on their smartphones.
Right. It's so easy. Today, most technology anyway, it's so easy. We've had our challenges here and there, but it's so easy to connect with others. There's really no excuse, I don't think, for being isolated these days. Another thing that I think caregivers can do for their loved one as well as themselves is maintain a daily routine.
Right.
Whatever it is that your loved one is used to doing, when they're used to getting up, when they're used to eating, when they're used to doing something fun with you, even if it's just going into the backyard and looking at the flowers. Maintain that routine. It'll help your mental health as you move forward. And of course, it'll help the person that you're taking care of. These are
routines are so important.
especially if you're caring for someone with dementia. You get them out of their routine, they're confused, and then they can become agitated. And when they become agitated, sometimes the caregiver becomes agitated, and it just spirals from there. I've seen it in my own family. So, again, routine is so important. These are trying times. We turn on the news, we hear about COVID, we hear about the numbers rising. We're now post-election, and the United States is still topsy-turvy post-election. What I would say is to maintain, again, some of your own mental health is turn off some of the news. Turn off
Yes.
social media. I got into the habit of scrolling too much and getting agitated by some of what I read about the political situation in the last few weeks. And I thought, this is stupid. I can't control this. I have no effect on this. So why am I getting agitated about it? So
Right.
focus on what you control. You can control. Get away from the news. Turn off the TV sometimes. It will, again, just not help your mental state too much. And then talking about COVID again, I think it's really important for caregivers to have a plan in case they get sick. What if they get COVID?
Right. What if they get it? What's the backup plan?
You've got to have a backup plan, whether it's other family members or friends or a home care agency that you know and trust. You've got to have a backup plan, and you've got to tell those people that may be your backup plan what the routine is, when they eat, what they eat, how to best care for your loved ones so that they'll be prepared, or you're still going to have turmoil. So focus on, again, what you're going to do if you get sick. Have a plan. And really importantly, remember you're not alone. There are people like us, me and Chris, who are here to help you. There are wonderful organizations nationwide that have websites, lots of caregiving platforms these days where you can go and find resources. Wherever you live, there's a council on aging that can help you. Just Google your city. If it's Atlanta, put in Atlanta Council on Aging. And they have resources to help caregivers. Give them a call. Let them come to your home, do an assessment, see what it is you need, and let them put their wheels in motion to put some resources in place for you. Don't try to do this alone.
Don't do this solo. Because, it's interesting talking about resources, Toula, is that we never really think about resources for caregiving until we're right in the middle of it. It's not something that's planned. And then all of a sudden it happens. And you're looking for these resources in a time where your emotions are a little out of whack. You're dealing with somebody that in most cases you love and care for, and all of a sudden they're sick. And you're in a whole different realm of what you're used to. And you know what happens when we're stressed out? We
can't think straight.
Can't think straight, and you make poor decisions. And that's why kind of taking that deep breath, setting that daily intention for yourself, and reaching out for help for folks who have been down the caregiving journey before can really be a benefit just for new caregivers.
I couldn't agree more. And plan ahead. Whatever disease your loved one has, read about it, study it. Know what to expect, know what the trajectory is going to be so that you're not surprised and scared, so that you can plan for future days and do your best to care for them and yourself. Again, we're going to focus on self-care for the caregiver, because I know most caregivers go 90 miles an hour throwing themselves into caring for their loved one, but put their own self-care on the back burner. And that is so the worst thing you can do.
Very much so. And then we've got Thanksgiving coming up, a major holiday.
Yeah, you know what? The holidays, again, have their own set of challenges. I like to talk about those Publix commercials we see on TV with this happy family there and this beautiful meal on the table, and everybody's getting along. And I just want to say, hogwash,
Right.
That is not real life. Don't we all have somewhat dysfunctional families?
There's some family baggage, I think, everywhere.
Yeah, and here we are again, approaching the holidays. We're told we're supposed to stay at least 6 feet away from each other. We're told we're not supposed to go into large gatherings. So, do you have your family over for a Thanksgiving meal? Do you limit it to 2 people? Do you limit it to 4 people? Do you have them take a test, a COVID test before
Right.
they come? I don't think that's too outlandish myself, particularly if they're coming to your home and you have an elder in your home that you're taking care of.
Exactly. And if you haven't been around them for an extended period of time.
Yeah, it's even more important then. And if you have people traveling in to come to be with you, and especially if they come in on an airplane, you need to know where they're coming from, what the COVID rates are in that area. And again, I would not have a problem asking my loved one to get a test before.
Yeah. The CDC recommended today, as I read on the news, that people really shouldn't gather for Thanksgiving, and that's
That's tough.
it's going to be tough. But these are tough times, and we're all having to make tough decisions. And goodness, I went 6 weeks without putting gas in my car, so it's like
I don't even understand how you did that. But
I don't understand. But when I realized it, I said, "Oh my gosh, I haven't been. I just go around to the store, and that's it." And I
yeah,
think that's it's not the right thing. The price you pay for being safe, but you have to be judicious.
you do. You really do, because this is a real disease. You know, some crazy people out there still say it's a hoax. I don't know where they get off saying that when we have people dying of this disease. You have to be careful. When you have someone over, if you decide to do that, have them wear their masks. You wear your mask, even in your own home. Prepare for that. Lysol spray down your own home before they
Right.
come in.
Hmm.
Have hand sanitizer everywhere for them. And
Hmm.
wear your mask when you're not eating and drinking. And even when you're at the table, try to space the chairs, if you can, at least 6 feet apart. Even better if you can have your Thanksgiving meal outside,
Very much so.
in
Well, in
your
Florida, we can
backyard.
certainly do that. So
We can if it's not too hot. And we're
that's
talking about November. We
that's
can if it's not
right.
too hot.
That's
You know
right.
how I hate the heat.
Uh,
So, just some simple things like that can really make it easier for you. People say don't do any singing, any shouting, even praying. That's taking a lot of things away from people that some people are used to, but I think it's important that we that we obey these guidelines for our health as well as the health of the people around us, and then limit contact with services that you're not sure where they came from.
exactly. It's all part of all part of self care,
It is. It really
and
is.
we certainly hope things will get back to. Well, I was going to use the word normal, but I think things are always going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But if we're staying safe and we're certainly being cognizant of the health and welfare of our care partner, then we want to adhere to these guidelines as much as we can.
You can go to the CDC website and read some holiday guidelines.
Hmm.
They even go so far as to say, don't have a buffet on your table or a buffet on your counter where everybody comes and takes what they want. You serve. You make
Ex-
sure your hands are clean or you have
mm,
on gloves and you serve
mm.
their plates. Again, just to be as safe as possible. I don't think you can be overcautious
Right.
with this. The last thing we want is anybody to come down with this terrible disease, especially the elder that you're caring for and you, the caregiver.
Hmm.
But I was with someone last night who just got over it. She had it pretty bad for about 3.5 to 4 weeks. And she said, she had some respiratory stuff, a pretty bad sore throat, but the worst of it was, and she kept showing her hands doing a line in the air. I was flat on my back. I could not get up.
Yeah, just zaps you from all your energy and strength,
Yeah.
and not only the physical but also the emotional. It's got to be an emotional roller coaster for the person who has it, and then their family members as well.
Yeah, and then how do you do that? If one person in the household gets it, how do the rest of them
How do you do
not
it?
get it? You're living in separate bedrooms now. You're using separate bathrooms. The kitchens may be off limits. that you just can't be too careful
Can't be too careful. Well,
with all
Toula,
this.
this is, it looks like this is a great place to take our break. And as I forewarn you, asking all of our guests here on 30 and 30, when we come back from the break, we want to know a fun fact about you that I don't know. Now, that might be pretty hard, but our listeners would certainly want to know. I've got a couple that I could probably do for you, but I want them to come from you.
Yeah, I'm scared what you might say, so you better let me do it.
You better let you do it. Okay.
Yeah.
You're listening to Healing Ties on the Whole Care Network. We will be right back.
Join us tomorrow and every day in November for 30 shows in 30 days. Healing Ties 2.0. Available at thewholecarenetwork.com/healing ties and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are continuing our delightful conversation with Toula Wootan from Toula's Tips for Caregivers. And man, has Toula given some wonderful tips as she usually does today. But now I'm putting her on the spot because we want to know one fun fact about Toula that maybe I don't know. And I'm sure our listeners will want to know. So Toula, it's all yours.
I think it's fun and I think it's interesting, and I feel privileged that I can even say I did this. When I was 12 years old, my father got an opportunity to work in Nigeria it was really a 2-year assignment. We were there a year and a half because the Biafran War broke out. But I lived in Nigeria for a year and a half, and I've been in a big Jeep and gone into what you call the bush, deep into the bush, where there are nothing but natives, African natives, some of whom have never seen a white person before. And again, this was 1969. And so all these natives came running out into the clearing to touch me, to feel my hair, to feel my skin, to see if I felt any different than they did, because I looked different than they did. And as a 12-year-old girl, that made quite an impression on me. I can still feel it, picture it today.
What an awesome fun fact. And to have the opportunity to live in a completely different culture for almost 2 years.
Yeah, it was amazing. I learned so much, and it really helped shape a lot of my values. There, I saw a lot of interracial marriages. A lot of people from Britain and America were marrying Nigerians, and it was just no big deal. And then we moved back to where we had previously lived, which was Atlanta. And in the late 60s, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
And I remember thinking, what is wrong with these people?
Oh, goodness gracious.
So again, it helped form some of my values. And I have a lot to be thankful for in the experiences I had growing up. But that's one that'll always stick with me.
Well, one of the things that I'm very thankful for is my friendship with you.
Me too. Very thankful for you, Chris. We've known each other, I think, 6, 7, 8 years now. And it's been a wonderful friendship. And we've done some good things together.
And more to come.
More to come, for sure.
Yeah.
I enjoy you very much.
Likewise. Now, Toula, unfortunately, we just got a couple of minutes left. Now, I want all of our listeners to know how they can find information about you and your podcast and your book, and so they can get some of your great Toula's tips like I've been privileged to for the last 8 years.
Well, thank you, Chris. My show is now strictly podcasts, and so I'm on iHeart and Spreaker and Google Play, and I think every digital platform. But you can find me on my website. Every single one of my shows since 2010 is on my website, toulastipsforcaregivers.com. And that's just TOULAS tipsforcaregivers.com. Again, they go back to 2010. They're categorized by date, and then they're categorized by topic: community resources, stress management, etc. So my website would be the best place to start. And I do have a book. It's on Amazon. It's called Love Stories and Timeless Tips, because that's why we do what we do.
That's why we do what we do. Yeah.
Because we love our person we're caring for.
And your podcast is also featured right here on the Whole Care Network as well.
But of course.
Yeah. Well, you know, Toula, with the stories that you share and the work that you do, you are certainly someone who is creating healing ties all around us. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. And I can't thank you enough for your friendship and full speed ahead.
Happy to do it. And I hope we can see each other again. If we have to socially distance,
if we have to socially distance, well, we could socially distance 6 feet apart at the Waffle Restaurant in Jacksonville.
There you go.
So
you know what? Let me rephrase that. I don't like the term socially distance. It goes against what we just finished talking about. Let's call it physically distance.
Physically distant. I like that.
It makes more sense to me. So,
yeah, I like that.
I'd love to get together, Chris.
Well, that will happen soon. But unfortunately, that does it for this episode of Healing Ties. As you know, I'm your host, Christopher McClellan. You probably know me as the Bowtie Guy. I've created a life to love after caregiving ends by sharing stories, resources, and being with awesome people like Toula Wootan. Healing Ties is produced in the posh studios of Oddbox Productions in St. Louis, Missouri, and is part of the Whole Care Network. Check out the soft launch of our new Whole Care Network website, and be sure to meet Bo and subscribe to Healing Ties wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We'll see you for another episode of Healing Ties, tomorrow, as we continue our 30 podcasts in 30 days to celebrate National Family Caregivers Month. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye for now.
Ciao.
This is WCN, the Whole Care Network. You talk, we listen.